Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of PitchUs. Super excited to have Anthony here with us. And as always, my co-host Jeff Erickson. My name is Tim Cooley. I am the author of the Pitch Deck book. Jeff, please introduce yourself.
And I am Jeff Erickson. I am an angel investor and also with a company called Forecaster that does financial modeling software for early stage startups to make financial modeling easy for startup founders. So we're excited to have Anthony on the show today. And Anthony, we're going to hand things over to you and have you pitch us.
All right. Hello, guys. Thank you for giving me this chance, and I think we can start. So, as you guys heard, my name is Anthony, and I own a company called Lane. When what we do is we enable drivers to find reliable car services conveniently. So, let me just give you this screenshot of problems that I've faced myself and problems that people have faced in my country, and I got to find out that it's not just me. So a little background on myself. I have a background in mechanical engineering from the University of Nairobi. I did not get to finish due to health reasons, and so I had to drop out. And after that, I decided, let me see what's up for me. And meanwhile, I was helping my parents, specifically my mother. She's a farmer, and so I was dealing with the operation side of things, which is transporting chicken from one town to another to distributors. And we had a car. It's a bit old and rusty, was a bit old and rusty. We sold it, but I got to experience firsthand just the pains that a car owner or a driver experiences at the hands of unreliable mechanics you cannot find, or auto shops you cannot access. And that got me thinking, this can't be just me experiencing this. There's so many more people experiencing this kind of problem. There's so many more people who need mechanics, and people love their cars, right? And cars are expensive. Cars are a part of our life. They really are. The fact that they form 7.1% of the global GDP, the automotive industries, just go to show just how much cars play into our lives. So, but the bad thing with cars is they break down, and some more than others. And specifically in my country, Kenya, and I would assume Africa at large, good mechanics are hard to find. Good garages are harder to find, and the good ones that are there, they do not have enough exposure to find their customers. So I began my journey in 2021, and from the screenshots that I've just displayed to you, you can see I'm not the only one experiencing this. These are live screenshots. So we go to the problem. Uh, Drivers and garages have similar problems. Number one, convenience. The ease of finding mechanics or drivers is there's a very big disconnect between drivers and mechanics, right? So the good garages are very hard to find, and the drivers are really looking forward to looking to finding them. Second thing is trust, reliability. It's very hard to find garages that are trustworthy. Very, very difficult, especially in my country. People get swindled, and all types of nasty things happen to drivers around. Third thing is data consolidation. So you need to access all your vehicle's information in one platform. This helps with reviewing what a particular mechanic has done with your car. And also, when it comes to some disagreements, you need to just have some sort of record, and that's not exactly available right now in the market. So, the solution is a platform where drivers and service providers are linked in order to build trust, establish convenience, and save time and money for both sides. We're going to save time for the garages, and we're going to save a lot of money in bad services for the drivers. How it works. I began my exploration by trying to build the marketplace. So this was both the supply side and the demand side. So for this, sorry, this is the demand side, the customer side. You can see how it works. You just get on the platform through the Android app. You just click. It's a 3-step process. So you just open the app, input the service info and your location, and the service will basically just pick the garage based on some algorithms that we've put on the back end. On to the market size, as I previously mentioned, this is a very, very, very humongous market. The automotive industry is worth $3.2 trillion as of now, and doubling down, the auto repair industry is worth $789 billion. That's quite a large market for just something that's really fragmented, and no one seems to really look really deep into that. So with extensive marketing, good operations, and just keeping your head down, I believe that we can capture around 5%, which is about $40 billion of the market share with Lean. I began my market validation last year from April to October. I officially started from January developing the app, but I decided to go manually. I got a bike and had a mechanic and myself, and we went around just looking for customers and trying with the go-to market, just getting a feel of the market. And from that, I could get this data. It's very small, but it got me uh, a lot of useful data as to what I could do next. So from 24 transactions, I gathered about $494 in revenue and 45.8% retention rate. So 11 of those were repeat customers, and this was just cold outreach as well as content marketing through social media. But from this, I gathered that going after the demand side would be a bit difficult. So I had to pivot and track and start now with the supply side, which is going to the garages and building something for them. That's where the SaaS, that's where now my marketplace is a SaaS enabled marketplace. I am offering a garage management system to the supply side. And for the business model, we are going to charge a $60 monthly subscription fee for the B2B side. So we are targeting the African ecosystem for the coming 3 years. So if we target around 50,000 garages paying a subscription fee of $60, we're going to average about $36 million between 2023 and 2026. As for competitive advantages, there are a couple of companies trying to solve this problem that really seems to be bugging everyone, but no one seems to be getting it right. But there are a couple of guys doing a tremendously good job. But I feel like we can do a better job once we're in the market fully, launching in a month. We have the vetted mechanics, we have the management system. That's the garage management system. It's a bit detailed, so I won't go into that right now. There's easy onboarding as well as white labeling. Those are things which you cannot find, especially in the traditional market, which right now is very fragmented. For my go-to market, I've tried the social media, SEO, and content creation. SEO hasn't worked so well, but social media and content marketing are going to be pivotal, especially for someone bootstrapped like me. The main model definitely is going to be door to door, going to garages around my city and around other cities and onboarding users through their default mechanics. I also have partnerships with a couple of auto influencers and auto events organizers. As for the roadmap, we are planning from 2023 to 2027 to build, improve, and establish a market dominance in the SaaS product before launching the marketplace. Then after that, we can go into B2B financing as well as B2C financing, because we're going to have insight, insider knowledge of where these businesses spend their money, where these customers spend their money, and we're going to have a better feel and knowledge of who to give and who to help. Currently, I am the only person working on this, but I do have a number of people helping me. I have outsourced the development, and as well I have support from close friends of mine who are helping me build the company totally for free, which is actually quite nice. The value of community in this country is just awesome. So right now I am the only one working on this, but hoping to grow with time. As for the ask, I am asking for $600,000 to get 18 months. With this, I can get to around 100,000 MRR. So if we can break this down further, 33% will go to product development and marketing, 43% will go into the new hires, and 24% will go into office and CapEx. So that's a summary of company. Lane, is this the type of company you'd like to invest in? That's it. Thank you.
Great job.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So what we like to start off with, well, first of all, great job. I just want to get that out there. We like to start off with things that we really liked. So Jeff, please kick that off.
Yeah, Anthony, great job with the pitch deck. I thought it was actually a clean deck. I liked how it looked. I thought you did a good job in putting putting it together. You hit the points that you needed to. I mean, it included, most everything. I don't think you had the traction to put in the financials, although, and we can talk about that, but I think that was one piece, I guess, that was kind of missing. But overall, I mean, I think you hit, what needs to be in a pitch for the most part. I think you're really early. And so that's kind of what we'll probably talk a lot about is, what needs to be done and maybe some next steps to kind of get you along the path with a little bit more traction. But I mean, is a great deck. And I think we can talk through some things that maybe you could improve a little bit as well.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Yeah, you're early. Nothing wrong with that. I'm glad you reached out to us. I think Jeff and I, we love this early company so that you know what to build as you're growing the company and doing the things. I won't speak for Jeff, but that's something that I really like.
Totally.
But yeah, a couple things that I liked. I really liked the introduction. I think we can help you with that a little bit better. And then I like the quotes because everyone knows that this is a problem, at least for the initial problem. We can help with that as well. And then, I just like the cadence, it was really easy to follow along. And you had some really great stories to prove like you're out there doing the thing. And so
Thank you.
The hustle was out there, and that was really fun to hear.
Thank you.
So with that, let's start with areas of opportunity.
Okay. Right. So like Tim said, I like the problem. I mean, I think everybody can relate to that problem for the most part. If you've ever had a car breakdown and if you're like me and most people probably, you don't know a ton about cars. So you're kind of at the mercy of your mechanic and you don't know if you trust them or not. Everybody's probably experienced it where they're like, okay, you're telling me it's going to cost me $1,000 and I take it somewhere else. And then they told me it was like, $10 or something. So there's this mistrust that I think everybody can kind of, relate to. With that said, one of the things I felt, while you did get the problem across, it took a long time to get there. And so I think if you condense that shortly into, here's the problem right up front, and maybe, just come out and say 75% of people or whatever the metrics are, don't trust their mechanic. So something like that is going to show that there's a problem, and I think it's going to be easy to convey that. Maybe you still do have the examples in there, but I think you can get through that a lot quicker, because by the time I almost felt like, okay, I get the problem, and then you went into here's the problem, and then you broke it down into the 3 pieces. I just think you get there a lot quicker.
All right.
Maybe you work on that a little bit.
Right.
With that said, I thought the problem was, you did end up defining it. And so we went into the solution, and that's where it was a little challenging, because I think you started down the solution, and I get that we're doing a marketplace. But you kind of started going down this one path saying, okay, we did this pilot test, and it was a really small pilot test. And then the ultimate conclusion was it didn't work. And we spent a lot of time going through that just to kind of say, and we didn't really, it really, this didn't work that well. It was, and then you kind of said we pivoted and we're going to focus on the other side of the market, right? And so I thought that we spent way too much time on that as well, where I think you could somehow carve that into the story maybe a little bit, but it doesn't have to be a focus. You don't have to go into the detail that you did, because it really ended up not meaning a whole lot. And so then as you get into, saying we're pivoting and going after garages, the challenge I had there is that we just didn't have any traction, right? There was no, like, we've talked to, 100 garages, this is what they said or something. I think you have to demonstrate that the garages are needing what you are building. The other thing that I thought was really hard for me to grasp was, you said that you're going to be building this from 2023 to 2027. So you've got 4 years of development is how I understood it anyways. And that graph that you showed, the box, I would have rather seen a timeline, kind of a straight timeline or something where it says, okay, here's the milestones we're going to hit along the timeline. But I think they're way too far spread out. If you're going to be raising $600,000, any investor is going to say, okay, where does that get me? And I know you did say it was going to get me $100,000 in MRR. I didn't see that anywhere in the presentation. All I saw and what I focused on was, you're going to be in development for 4 years. And I immediately thought that means they're probably not going to have a whole lot of revenue for that period of time. And it's just going to be a bunch of costs developing that out. And so I think, and that may not be the case, but that is how that kind of came across. So that's something I think you could work on the story there. And then one last thing I'll just mention was, you mentioned how you're going to go to market, and you said SEO doesn't work. And that was kind of oh man, okay, well, we went down that path and it didn't work. And so I'm like, okay, what does work? And there wasn't anything to back up and say, this is what's working. And so I didn't have the confidence to say, okay, we've got a pathway here to actually, get some traction. And so that's, I think, what was missing for me the most, was there just really wasn't anything to demonstrate at this point that you have some real ability to get traction. And so $600,000 seems like a big risk at this point, where I don't have enough evidence to show that we're going to get to where it needs to be. So that was kind of my take, just overall. So I hope that's helpful.
All right, it is. And I would like to ask how you guys would prefer me to present the investor output. You've said something about the 100K MRR and how you'd like me to present that in the form of traction.
Yep.
But in a pre-product company, for someone who's trying to raise some money, how would I best present this?
So I'll tell you what I would have liked to have seen is how many customers that represent over what period of time. In the next 6 months, we're going to have this many paying customers. Maybe it's 3, and it's going to equate to this much in revenue. I want to see a detailed, something that says, I've got this planned out and I'm going to get to $100,000 in ARR with this $600,000 over what time period. If that's going to be over 4 years, that's probably not super exciting, right? But you had said that it gives you an 18-month runway, and that you're going to be at 100,000 MRR. And I'm seeing that, well, you're not even going to have a product built for 4 years, is at least what I interpreted that one slide to say.
Right. Okay. When it comes to the product, I definitely understand how it would definitely get misinterpreted on the part of the supply side and the demand side. I did say that the demand side would not work, but uh, it didn't mean that I was going to give it up completely. It just meant that the supply side would be essential to getting the demand side. But I definitely understand how I did not explain that a bit more succinctly, right?
Yeah. And again, I hope that's helpful, because you can kind of, we're sharing how we're hearing it. And so you can adjust and say, oh, okay, I totally missed
Yeah,
this.
I'm really understanding just how many things I'm missing and how many things I'm really not putting the words right for interpretation. I think that many things are getting lost between the lines.
Yeah, and I think we can help you with that too. So let me give you some feedback, and I think it'll take what Jeff said and add a little bit more to it, right?
Right.
I love what you did to start this business off, and I think that's very important to the story, right? That slide that you went out and raised $400 or whatever, that's really more part of the problem statement than it is the solution, right? So your story would be something like, I left school, I had to help my mom, our car broke down, and we just couldn't find things. So I tried to fix it to create this marketplace, right? Good providers and then people needing help. I ran an experiment, and this is what I learned that was missing from the world. We learned it didn't work, and that's totally fine, right? But here's what was missing. This is why we're building a SaaS solution that solves these problems, right? And now you've set up how you learned about why to build the SaaS problem, right?
Yeah.
And then now we go into it's $60 a month, right? Because I was looking for that number really early on. We like to see it within the first, I call them sections. There's the problem section, solution, then you get that financial section. So just tell me really early on, $60 a month. And then like one of my notes here was just your market size. You had 3.2 trillion and everyone loves it. We call it, it's like it's market bloat is really what it is. If you were to take your 60 and then multiply that by however many people in your area that can use that, that's really the market size. So, with Forecaster, where Jeff works, that's one of the things that they teach really is the bottom up approach for this kind of thing. And it makes more sense because it's a more realistic, like if everybody used your thing, it's still only 60 times whatever that number is, right? So now you've built that beginning part. So we know you're early. So now you can get into that traction element that says, look, I know that these places have this problem because I just talked to 100 of them. We've already got 5 people ready for beta, and when you build your traction based off of like 5 garages and then 10 and 50 and 100, now we're seeing that path, right? That's really clean for us to be like, oh, I see what he's doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And
makes sense.
we're not asking you to abandon that marketplace because it's like, no, phase 1, I'm going to build a really solid SaaS tool. Phase 2, and this is probably in 4 years. I think that's really what your slide was trying to say.
Yes,
We're going
exactly.
to come back and add that marketplace like I tried to do at the very beginning, but now I have the foothold on the market. And now we're like, okay, that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Actually, that's golden. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But on the market size,
Yep.
I did have a bit of a problem when it came in terms of TAM and the SAM,
Yep.
because when in trying to get the number of customers who are going to use the platform or the application, I do not have enough data to form any kind of graph or any kind of statistics to actually show just the number of people I'm trying to target. Because right here in Africa, in Kenya, I could not find any data as to how many garages are around, how many people are using these garages. So how should I go about data that's really scanty or not exactly available?
So my opinion is it's out there. You might have to count, right? Like pull up your city, garages near me, and then I mean this is the most rudimentary. This is take forever, but now you would know like, and you can make an assumption that
Yeah.
every city is probably has 100. There's 1,000 cities in the area, and you can get a rough estimate of where you're going with that.
No, I was going to say, I think you did come up with a number, the 50,000 garages, and okay, and how many, and where was that located? Was that in a certain geography?
Now for there, that's where I used the rough estimates.
Okay.
But I wasn't confident in putting them on the market size because I thought maybe people would like to have something that's actually verified, you know. So putting rough estimates or something that I just did alone, my individual count, I didn't think that it would actually apply on the market size. But that's the number that's the number I used for garages around Kenya and the garages I think we can attain as lean around Africa. That's where I got the 50,000.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'd try and validate that as much as you can.
Yeah.
But again, I think again to Tim's point that on the market side, my initial reaction was, okay, this is not a 60 billion or a $40 billion, or you really need a beachhead, and that beachhead is probably Kenya, and maybe that's kind of where you go after and say, this is what we're gonna capture this, and here's how many customers are potential, and here's how many we're going to get over the next 5 to 10 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then 2 more pieces of feedback. One is there's a big conversation around solo founders. And if you just put yourself up there, it doesn't look good. And I'll just say it that way. But you're not a solo founder. You just haven't hired people yet. I'm going to say it that way. So you do have a development team. You've got advisors. You've got other people. And you can bring those all around as a support staff, right? So it doesn't matter if you're paying people, they're part of your team. So today, they may not be full-time employees, but you might be working with a dev shop out wherever. You might have an advisor. Let's say Jeff's an advisor, but you can just pull these people in, and now your team looks. It is. It doesn't look full. It is full, right?
Right.
And we know you're going to hire people, right?
Yeah.
So fill the slide up with the people who are filling the key roles today. And then finally, this is my personal thing. Your ask slide should be your last slide. I'm going to say it every time because it's that important. Combine all the details, the ask, the valuation, your contact information, and put it all on one slide. That last slide usually gets the most airtime. So that's going to be my recommendation there. Okay?
All right. Yep.
All right.
I do have one question.
Okay.
Yep.
When it comes to the team, is it advisable to add people who are part-time or not fully, like if you're outsourcing or something of the sort?
Yeah, you can. I mean, just make sure that the marketing person and the other
Yeah.
thing, they're part-time, just label them asterisk part-time. Like, that's fine. We get it. We're a startup.
Yeah,
Okay.
and one of the things you can kind of use that for is say, part of the use of the funds will be to bring this person on in more of a full-time role, or to, you can kind of use the use of funds to say, this is who we're going to bring on and here's the team, because really investors do want to know that you're capable as a founder to build a team, and you want to demonstrate that you've started that process.
Yeah. All right. Actually,
All right. So moving on to the final question, which we ask every founder, based off of what we heard today, not what we've learned since we started, but what we heard, would we move? And this is the key question. And the reason we do this is most of the time you're presenting to investors who know nothing about you. And so that's why this question is based off what we heard today, would we move this company onto due diligence? And Jeff, start us off.
Yeah, I think I mentioned before that it just too early, not enough confidence yet in terms of the traction and the pathway to traction. I didn't think that was demonstrated quite yet, and so I think you have a little ways to go, especially with a $600,000 ask. I would pass on this and say, yeah, probably not at this point. I do like the idea and I like what you're trying to solve. So I do like the problem. I just think you're not quite there in terms of defining and demonstrating that you've got a direct pathway to solve that problem.
all right. Thank you.
Right. And I'll echo what Jeff said. And I just kind of want to repeat. Sometimes the ask indicates where you're at in the company. So if you were raising lower, maybe 150 to 250, then it's like, okay, I can see where you're going. You got early traction. And one thing that we recommend, or I recommend, I don't know if Jeff does, but sometimes what you can do is we still know you need 600, but you can break that up into what's called a tranche. So the first part of this is to get to these 3 clients onboarded. Then from there, we're going to go out and raise 400K, and that's where we're going to go and get our next 20. And that it gets a lot more confidence because that early money is really, really risky. But we still know you need that 600, or people are doing like $1.5 million or whatever the raise is. But breaking it up allows you to build confidence from your investors along the way, and it doesn't feel like, oh man, that's just so much,
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could show us what you're doing with, I need, 50,000 to get to here, and then if you've got some milestones, it will help you kind of identify some of those milestones of where you need to get to, and it also it helps you kind of formulate where you're going to use that money and the timing of it all, so that timeline also can be really impactful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for taking the time out to pitch to us.
Thank
Really
you.
love learning about you and the company. If you guys are out there and you need help with your decks, please check out the pitch deck book. It goes through all the basics that are required and why they need to be there. And then once you get there or whatever, take advantage of Forecaster. There's some great deals, good links in the bio here to get those financials ready to go for investment or for even running your company. And so we'll see you all next time.